Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 33 of Bank to the Future Live. As usual, if we want to ask any questions, then please use the hashtag BFLive. This is your opportunity for the Bank to the Future investors, the Bank to the Future community, to get your question answered. And today we have a very special guest who I will be introducing very shortly. But to give you the teaser, it is David Gold from the FIO. And we'll be going through everything around what's happening at the FIO protocol. Just before we do that, a little bit of housekeeping. If you're watching this live on YouTube, then please do use the live chat. We've got Famida on the call who's moderating as usual, and she'll be picking out your questions to ask of David or myself. There'll be, feel free to use that. Also, this will be streaming on Twitter at the same time. If you've got a question and you'd like to get our attention, use hashtag BFLive. And also, I believe this will be on Facebook if you're that way inclined. But most of the crypto community tend to hang out in the Twitter sphere. So that's the housekeeping. Just for those of you to set expectations, I give a lot of content regularly on all things crypto, all things economics and financial, but this is the show just for our investor community, just for our Bank to the Future token holders, or maybe you're using our Bank to the Future wallet, or you're an investor on the platform, or you're someone in the fintech community that's looking to raise funding on our platform. But we tend to focus mainly on the investors in this call. Also, when we did our Bank to the Future token sale, we set up the Telegram community at BF_token. And you can get your questions answered there. So the format is that we're going to jump right into our interview, our special interview with David Gold, who is past his funding goal and has got an incredible lineup of investors for FIO and the FIO protocol. So we're going to dig deep into that. There's only a very small allocation left over, and we'll go into that, and then we'll pick up with some other of our portfolio company news, and before that we'll obviously get your questions, so have those on the ready. So thank you very much for joining us, David. I know it's very late there in Tokyo.
Great to be here. Glad to do it.
Awesome. Okay, so hopefully we've got you on energy and you're still jet lagged and in another time zone, because I know it's very late where you are in Tokyo. But why don't you just give us a little introduction, David? Like, how did you get involved in crypto? And then we can start going through the FIO protocol and how you got involved with that.
Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. So I'm an engineer by education, University of Colorado, MIT, spent some time actually in government work for NASA. And then I got bitten by the dot-com bug back in the day and became a dot-com entrepreneur and then an angel investor. My company from dot-com era navigated through the crash, and we became profitable and had an M&A event. And then I became a venture capitalist, and I was a general partner of a venture capital fund for over 11 years, Access Venture Partners. And about 4.5 years ago, I jumped in to lead our blockchain investments. We were a diversified fund, and so I became the subject matter expert for that. And I quickly fell down the crypto rabbit hole, like probably a lot of the people who are listening right now. Really felt like for the first time since the dot-com era that I did back then. And that means both the good and the bad. The good being, I looked at blockchain and said, wow, this is going to change the world. But just like I did when I opened my first Mosaic web browser on dial-up in 1993, I also said, boy, does this technology suck. It's got a long way to go before it's going to reach mass adoption. And that's what led me down the road to look at ways to solve the usability problems that existed around crypto, and not finding something that I believed would truly solve it. Started thinking about solutions, and that led to what became the FIO protocol and our company Dapix, which is the venture company that's building the FIO protocol. We incubated the company, and I decided to jump in and run it. And to go back to my roots, because this is a big idea what we're trying to do here.
Okay, there's before we go into the FIO, there's a lot to unpack there, because that's a really interesting background. So you were around when the user experience of the internet sucked as much as blockchain does right now. Could you give us like a bit of a background on what that was actually like, and when did the transition actually become usable, and what can we learn from that in this crypto adoption right now?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people probably forget that the internet was around for over 10 years before its usage really exploded. And a absolutely key element of its usage exploding was a usability protocol called HTTP that we're all familiar with. It sits at the beginning of our web addresses. A lot of people don't know what that stands for: Hypertext Transport Protocol. It is a protocol. That was a core reason that the web was able to explode in usability, because HTTP made it easy to use and got rid of all this morass of confusing ways that people would access through FTP and Telnet and other things, the information that was sitting out on servers. Blockchain is in a space that I think is pre-HTTP. You've got a whole bunch of different blockchains. They're each their own protocols. And the way that users interact with those is not identical. It's different, and it's also very arcane and convoluted. Public addresses, among other things, are an arcane and confusing and risky concept. So there are, many, many differences for sure, but there are some corollaries that I see in terms of where we are in the evolution of the blockchain ecosystem. And I think we're still early. I think we're actually, the early 90s or late 80s, if I were to do a comparison to the internet, so pre-HTTP, because I think what we're doing with the FIO protocol, while it's not HTTP, its goals are somewhat similar in terms of what the end game is: to make blockchain usable in a homogeneous way across every blockchain that's out there, so that users have a user experience that is the same whether they're interacting with Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. It doesn't matter. That's the end vision and goal of what the FIO protocol is about.
Okay, so you were there for the early part of the internet, and then you got into the venture side. So I guess you have a lot of experience of what it's like to be the investor as opposed to the entrepreneur. I've often found that entrepreneurs and investors are just on completely different planets sometimes, much like people that understand crypto and people that don't understand crypto. And one of the real challenges is obviously most investors are thinking about risk mitigation, return on investment, and entrepreneurs are just focused on the opportunity and the ability to change the world. And quite often, someone that wants to change the world is not exactly a good risk managed bet and approach. So, how do you think that's helped you in being involved in this company where you've sat on both sides of the fence?
Yeah, well, in the same way, being a VC for over 11 years, I was, a bit of an odd duck. Not a lot of VCs built and ran tech companies and raised venture capital. I raised over 25 million in venture capital for my .com company back in those days, and so I was able to bring that experience as an investor to the investing that I've done. And now I've obviously had the experience to the other side. So as we've gone out and built this effort, I'm able to talk with investors and explain to them in terms that they understand what we're doing, and why it makes sense from an investment standpoint. Obviously, it's high risk. That's what venture capital is about. But being able to communicate that, along with being able to put together a coherent strategy around how we're going to achieve this decentralized vision for the FIO protocol, those have been really, really key to getting this off the ground.
Yeah. So one of the things that we found particularly a challenge at Bank to the Future is, entrepreneurs constantly being busy in the crux of what they're doing and trying to achieve. And then at the same time, actually understanding the mindset of an investor, to be able to just give, some coherent updates in a way that they actually care about or understand. So I think it might be a real advantage having been sat on both sides of the fence and understanding that at the end of the day, companies need documenting and updates need providing. And yeah, I think it's a real advantage to be both sides of that.
Yeah, well, I've certainly been on the receiving side, and so yeah, I do have giving concise updates are very important to investors, and it's also important to the company, because if the investors have those updates, then they're going to be more helpful in all the ways that they can be, relationships and ideas and everything else that they can bring to the table.
Awesome. Okay, so now let's jump into the product. So in simplest terms, give us the elevator pitch. What is FIO protocol and why is it important?
Yeah, so the FIO protocol is a service layer. That's the best way to describe it. Its goal is to do for blockchain what HTTP did for the internet, meaning create a homogeneous user experience across all blockchains that enables users to be able to do things that are impossible today. Enables users to never have to interact with or even know what a public address is. Enables users to do things like send requests for payments in a completely decentralized way, a concept that largely does not exist in blockchain today, and yet is critically needed in a world of irreversible transactions, because in commerce, that's how most transactions start. A bill, an order, an invoice, an order card, those are all requests for payments. And things like data. While some blockchains have the concept of metadata, they each work differently. There's no way for a user to use those in a cohesive way across all different blockchains. So having the concept of cross-chain metadata, where notes and order cards and invoices can be captured in an immutable way, in an identical way, those are three of the core capabilities the FIO protocol will enable at mainnet launch. But beyond that, the list is very long of the things the FIO protocol theoretically could enable. Things like the ability to enable recurring payments, a concept that doesn't exist in blockchain today. The ability to make refunds very easy actually will be another thing at mainnet launch. Refunds in crypto are hard because you typically don't have the public address of your customer. With FIO addresses, it solves that problem. The ability to have cross-chain metadata becomes very possible. The ability to do reverse lookup of non-fungible tokens. The ability to have a secure decentralized method for doing multi-signature routing that doesn't exist today. All these things and more become possible with the FIO protocol, and the idea of having an industry standard service layer that works across all of the other blockchains out there. A key part of the FIO protocol is that it works immediately out of the box in an identical way with every single token or coin, every single blockchain. Right out of the gate, it does that because it doesn't integrate with any of those blockchains. Technically speaking, those blockchains don't even know the FIO protocol exists, which is part of the magic of what we're doing.
Okay, so how's that even possible? So one of the challenges with an exchange is they've got to figure out how to service all these different blockchains, and Ethereum does this and Bitcoin does that, and then Tron does this, and then you've got all these other things coming along, and they've got to figure out how to create wallets and everything for all those. But the solution has always been much like banking sucks, so PayPal come along, build on top of it, create a user experience that allows someone from India to receive payments very easily from someone in America using an email address. But then this whole centralization thing comes along where, due to compliance and all sorts of reasons, their user experience gets worse and worse and worse because they're trying to comply with all these laws. They're centralizing everybody's data. And therefore, there's these dispute resolutions that lead to someone having their funds seized for 6 months in case there's a chargeback, because then PayPal get caught on all these things. So they came along, they tried to do something very simple and very easy that was revolutionary in its time, and then reality kicks in. So then Bitcoin comes along and says, well, the answer is decentralization. Let's take out all the middle people. Let's not have a centralized service. Let's not make it whereby we have to be involved in these dispute resolutions. Let's have trustless. But then we've got to educate the whole world on this whole new thing that's very unnatural, of private key management and long strings of addresses. Is FIO protocol doing the PayPal thing? Is it centralizing it, making reoccurring payments possible? Or has it figured out something that no one else has figured out yet?
It's figured out something nobody else has figured out yet. FIO protocol is completely decentralized. There is no centralized aspect of what we are doing and what we will launch whatsoever. So once mainnet is launched and code is open sourced at mainnet or before, the protocol is a completely delegated proof of stake decentralized protocol. And part of the magic of what we're doing comes from where the name comes from. FIO is an acronym for Foundation for Interwallet Operability. The Foundation for Interwallet Operability is a Cayman nonprofit foundation that has a board from the industry. It is separate from our venture-funded company. And as we approach mainnet launch, the foundation will become much more prominent and ultimately will be really the center of gravity for the protocol in terms of learning and education and awareness and giving grants to improvement proposals and things like that. So back to where that word comes from, the FIO protocol integrates with the wallets, with the crypto endpoints. And I use the word wallet very broadly because that includes exchanges, crypto payment processing platforms, anything that provides a user interface to interact with blockchain, I'll broadly call wallets during this conversation. So those entities grab the open source SDKs and APIs that FIO provides and enable the capability there. And FIO doesn't send value on Bitcoin or Ethereum. It doesn't send those transactions. Those transactions are committed out of the wallet or the crypto payment processing platform, just like they are today from a technical perspective. So those underlying blockchains don't know that FIO exists because they get the exact same signature from a private key in a wallet, for example, of the transaction as they do today. What FIO handles is workflow around that, workflow that leads up to the transaction, workflow that may happen during and even after the transaction. So in that way, you could also draw some analogies, and I hate to do this because after what I'm going to describe here is completely different, to SWIFT in the banking industry. SWIFT doesn't send money. SWIFT sends information and confirmations about the sending of money. In that way alone, and only in that way, FIO is similar. FIO does not send a Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin or Dash or anything else. It sends information, workflow, and confirmations about the sending of those. And that's the magic of what it does. And that's why it enables things like FIO addresses, human readable addresses that work immediately across every blockchain and eliminate users ever having to see a public address. It enables this ability to send a request for payment from one FIO address to another FIO address in a completely decentralized way, to include data with those transactions and all the other roadmap items that I mentioned and more.
Okay. So it really is, you believe that this technology is achieving the original promise of decentralization and cutting out all these middle people at the same time as the benefits of centralization, which is a user experience that normal people can use.
That is the goal. And not only do we think that, but we have 25 FIO members, wallets, exchanges, crypto payment processors that have jumped in to support the FIO protocol, have indicated their intent to integrate the FIO protocol. A number of them already have started light integrations as part of our FIO address presale, where we're enabling people to reserve FIO addresses and domains in advance of mainnet launch. And we have 2 more FIO members that we'll be announcing soon that have already also signed up. So the number of companies in the blockchain space that are supporting what we're doing has grown rapidly. The company has been around for about approaching a year and a half now. And so the industry support is very, very strong because they look at what we're doing, they dig into the technology, and what they find is that they're thrilled with the technology solution and how this protocol will work. And they jump in to support it. So we're thrilled with the backing we've got from the industry.
Yeah, well, we heard about you in 2 ways. Originally, I think we were first introduced, we bumped into each other in Malta when I think we were both speaking at the Malta Blockchain and AI conference. And prior to that, it was a previous guest and one of the companies live on our platform right now, which was the Edge wallet, because I believe that they've committed, I don't know what the stage is, but I believe they've committed to at least working with you, exploring integrations. And then also the Binance Lab people as well. So why don't you share a bit about some of the backers that you've actually already confirmed and committed now?
Sure. So on the industry side, as far as FIO members that are supporting the protocol, Edge Wallet was one of our founding FIO members. They were one of the first 5 that jumped in early on to back the protocol, and we actually have an alpha integration of the full FIO protocol live in their product live for testing. I mean, it's not live to the public. So we're now doing alpha testing of that already. And they've done the light integration for the addresses. So yes, Edge is very involved, and other participants on the industry side include Binance's Trust Wallet, Shapeshift, BRD, Coinomi, Bitcoin.com, MyCrypto, and the list goes on and on. They're all listed at FIO.Foundation. And then we did close a significant round of funding. Binance Labs and Binance came in to lead that round. We have a number of other venture funds that are in that round as well. NGC Ventures, Blockwall Capital, Lunex Ventures, Access Venture Partners, Dundee Venture Capital, First Mile Venture Capital. So great backing from great investors, as well as a variety of angels and crypto angels who are investors in the project as well.
Awesome. Okay. So before we head over to some questions from the community that Famida will pick out for us, what was it like trying to, how did the whole Binance thing come about? Were you integrating with the wallet and then they thought this tech is great, you should speak to our venture arm, or how did it come about?
Yeah, so it did start with us working with Trust Wallet. And so Trust Wallet jumped in to become a FIO member. And then from there, we got connected to the investment team at Binance, which is the Binance Labs team, and built a relationship with them. And they went through diligence and did very deep diligence on what we're doing. Spent a lot of time with them in a lot of different ways, and ultimately they stepped up and said, they really believe in what we're doing. And needless to say, Binance is a huge player in the space, and having them and having Trust Wallet involved is fantastic for the project, because ultimately we're building a protocol here that's intended to be a standard for the industry. And so now we have so many large companies that are involved, but Binance is obviously the biggest of them all via the Binance Labs investment and Trust Wallet.
Yeah, well, part of our model at Bank to the Future is that we rely very much on the lead investors. We have a lean model. We put people through fairly different layers of due diligence, but a big part of our model is ensuring that the lead investors, the professional venture capitalists, have kind of done a lot of that deep due diligence, and then we kind of piggyback off that and co-invest on the same terms, having known that it's been through that type of due diligence, and then obviously put our own due diligence on top of that, and then we have a forum where people can also ask their own additional questions to ensure everything's understood. So what would you say the rigor of the Binance is? It's an interesting one, because obviously I've noticed that when you have companies like Binance, which are tremendously successful, and due to their success, they inevitably open a venture arm, but they're also missionaries. So I found that as opposed to just a normal venture capitalist that's looking purely at ROI, they've actually got an interest in supporting the industry and really growing the industry. So would you say that the rigor and due diligence that Binance put you through was on par with, let's say, a non-missionary VC that's just purely there for ROI?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in their case, because they're so connected in the industry, they're able to do a type of diligence that maybe some others would struggle to do, because they didn't really have to ask us for introductions to FIO members to talk to them about what we were doing. Number one, Trust Wallet was already involved, but even with the other ones, they knew so many of them that they could just send them a message directly and say, so why did you guys get involved? Why are you, what is your level of commitment? So yeah, they did very extensive diligence in this process, and so everything proceeded very quickly from there once they finalized it. And the round is actually oversubscribed from what our target was. And you, Simon, you and I have talked about this, but it's oversubscribed, and you and I had discussions along the way, and I felt that it was valuable to try and have at least a small amount that we could make available through the Bank to the Future platform, because unlike a lot of crypto projects, the FIO protocol is something that everybody who's listening to this will ultimately use, because I'm going to guess everybody who's listening to this probably already holds some crypto. Everybody will ultimately use this. And so that's why, you know, we saw it as valuable to say, let's make some of this available to the actual crypto community, the crypto investment community, through a great platform like Bank to the Future, because our project is about the wallets and the exchanges and crypto payment processors integrating it, and about users actually using it.
Yeah, we have, we're going to move over to Famida now, but we tend to have two different types of clients. We've got clients that, you know, really want to raise the funding, and they see Bank to the Future as a solution. And then we've got clients like yourself where the round is really oversubscribed by really great investors, and they see the benefit of actually bringing in us as a strategic investor in syndicate so that we can cooperate and be a part of it. So we're really grateful to have this allocation, because I know that you actually put a lot of effort in just to be able to give us this allocation, given the demand you had. So we're really grateful for that. Famida, have you got any questions from the community that we can ask of David?
Yeah, we do actually. These questions might be stuff that you've already actually touched on, where Simon has asked you some questions, but it'll be good to just ask these questions anyways, and then we can put it in a timestamp. So one question from the live chat actually is, would really like to know more about Binance's recent investment in FIO, and how will they use it?
So, so as far as the investment, they were the lead investor in the current round. And our first and most specific work with Binance is through Trust Wallet. So Trust Wallet is already doing light integration. So if you go to the FIO address presale site, addresses.fio.foundation, you'll see that they're one of the wallets that's listed as already FIO enabled, which is pretty cool. We have wallets actually integrating, doing a light integration of the FIO protocol, and our mainnet's not even launched yet. I mean, I don't know if that's ever happened before. So Trust Wallet is one of the wallets that's done that and enabled FIO key generation in their wallet already. And from there, you know, Binance is going to be very supportive to us in a whole variety of ways, which isn't surprising. They have the ability to bring a lot to the table, and you know, what I say to the community is just wait and see what we're going to do and what we're going to do together with them and our other investors.
Great, thank you. Another question just came through. David, could you tell us more about how the company gets paid?
Yeah, so, you know, everything we're doing here is a decentralized tokenized business model. Dapix Inc., which is our company, and that is the company that the venture capital has been invested into, and the investment from Bank to the Future will go into, is a venture-backed traditional centralized company. Dapix's role is to build the first iteration of the FIO protocol and to shepherd it towards mainnet launch so that the mainnet can be launched and the initial Genesis block of the tokens can be created. Dapix will receive a share of those tokens, and those tokens are owned pro rata by our investors. So though that is intended to be the primary return for our investors, after mainnet launch, Dapix will get paid to do improvement projects for the protocol from the foundation and elsewhere. But honestly, you know, that's a services company. What's more important than the income there is how we're improving the protocol to create value in the network, in the decentralized network, and value of the tokenized economy that we have launched. So investors who invest in Dapix do need to understand that the expectation that's been set with all of our venture fund investors is that the primary return is expected to be the tokenized return that comes from the FIO protocol and from the share of FIO tokens that the Dapix is intended to receive.
So maybe, so is this like, for example, Block One was a company, they owned a lot of EOS tokens. Maybe another example is even Facebook. They have a centralized company, and they have this, you know, not-for-profit Libra that's launching the protocol and having node operators. Can you draw any analogies of something that might have happened in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are rough analogies, and Block One is certainly a rough analogy. There are differences as well. We're learning from, you know, things that others have done and what they've done well and what they've done wrong. and try not to make the same mistakes again. But Block One did a lot of great things, and obviously EOS is a great platform. We are actually a fork of EOS. We didn't start with a blank sheet with our protocol. We did analysis over 20 different blockchains and selected EOS as the one that was the right one to start with. But in a somewhat similar way, DAPX the goal is that DAPX will end up with a significant share of the tokens. That's detailed in the pitch information on the Bank to the Future platform. And those tokens are owned pro rata by our investors. So an investor, whatever percentage of our company they own the same percentage of any tokens that DAPX receives or generates. And so they also own stock in our company, preferred stock. And that really maximizes their upside and their protections. If DAPX were bought for some reason, if the company were actually sold in an M&A event, unlike an investor who just bought tokens who would get nothing out of that, our investors own preferred stock. So they will get something no matter what the exit is. And they definitely own their percentage share of any tokens that we receive or generate.
Yeah, I mean, maybe another analogy is Ripple Labs, the company, is the largest holder of XRP.
Yep, all those would be very similar, where you started with a centralized company that created the first version of the protocol software and launched it. So those are great comparisons in exactly that way. DAPX's role and mission in life is to create the first version of the blockchain and shepherd it to mainnet launch, which will be a community event because it'll be a decentralized event. And from there, DAPX will be a supporter of the protocol in terms of continuing to create enhancements for it in a way that Ripple Labs and Block One are supporters of their ecosystem.
Okay, so I think you've already touched on it, but I think it would be beneficial if you could maybe give a more simpler terms of what the main difference is between DAPX and FIO.
Yeah, so DAPX is a US corporation. It is a for-profit company. FIO, the Foundation for Inter-Wallet Operability, is a Cayman not-for-profit foundation. DAPX is venture funded, and it is using the venture capital to build the software code that will become the FIO protocol and to facilitate mainnet launch. The foundation's role, it'll also get a token allocation out of mainnet is the vision, and then it'll get an ongoing very small percentage of economic input to the protocol. The foundation's role is not governance. The governance of our blockchain is by the nodes, which is the way all good proof of stake and delegated proof of stake blockchains work. But the foundation's role is education, awareness, and funding of improvement projects, putting out grants and so forth to fund actual improvements of the protocol. So DAPX might be a recipient of some of those grants in the future, where there's a grant because the foundation says, hey, we'd like to add the ability to do recurring payments. And DAPX might be the company that gets selected by the foundation for a grant to actually build that capability and offer it to the community so that the nodes can accept it and integrate it into the blockchain code.
Okay, great. So next question I have here is, how will FIO help existing and new Bitcoin users?
It helped them both in the same way. So imagine, we have an explainer video at the foundation website, and it's on the pitch page as well. And there's a person in there that's new to crypto, and that's how most people react when they see it the first time. They're shocked, they're scared, they're confused. What's this public address thing? Users won't have that experience anymore with FIO. It'll be something they understand. They understand sending to an address, like an email address that's human readable. They understand the concept of requesting a payment. They understand how PayPal and Venmo work. And FIO in some ways will enable a type of user experience that has some similarities to PayPal and Venmo, except that it's completely decentralized and it will work the same across every single blockchain. So users across the ecosystem will use it. The genesis for FIO came out of my personal experience when I dove into blockchain and I saw how difficult it was. And I, in fact, lost some ETH. I actually lost money on the Ethereum blockchain, sending some ETH from my mobile wallet to my desktop wallet. And yes, I scanned a QR code, and I still lost ETH scanning a QR code because it flipped the 6th digit from one letter to another letter. It took me days to figure that out, but that's what happened. That cannot be the world that we live in blockchain. You have to have a world where transactions are virtually error-free, and they're easy, and that's what FIO will enable for the ecosystem. The cool thing about, another cool thing about FIO FIO doesn't compete with other blockchains, right? A lot of the blockchains are doing different things, but some of them also really are competing with each other, trying to do similar things. FIO really sits alongside all of them. And our goal is to really enable the underlying blockchains to not have to worry about creating usability functionality, so they can focus on the absolutely critical plumbing that they're building, without which we have nothing, right? And that plumbing is core to what we're doing. The plumbing of the internet is critical to the internet working, but users don't have to actually delve into the details of that plumbing, right? So that's part of our vision, is to enable FIO to be that usability layer, that service layer, so that the underlying blockchains can really focus on the bread and butter of what they're actually doing today and not have to worry about these things.
Oh, Simon, did you have something to say there?
I was going to say, so the reason you don't have to integrate with all of these blockchains and always be on top of it, is my understanding correct? Is because the wallet and the exchange are doing that, but you're integrating with the wallet and the exchange?
Correct. The wallets and exchanges still will have to integrate with underlying blockchains. So if they want to be able to commit a Bitcoin transaction to Bitcoin, they're going to have to be interacting with, you know, the right APIs and do the right things to be able to enable their wallet or their exchange to sign that transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain. Because at the actual point where a transaction is being processed inside of a wallet or exchange, even with the FIO protocol, it's being signed just like it is today. So if it's a Bitcoin transaction, and if I'm in a FIO-enabled wallet, when I go to actually commit that transaction, my private key for Bitcoin is being used to sign that transaction out of my wallet onto the Bitcoin blockchain. So Bitcoin doesn't know anything has changed. The user experience might have changed completely, because that user experience that led up to that process of clicking confirm the send very well could have been that you, Simon, sent me a request for 1 Bitcoin to pay you for the used car that I bought from you recently. And I could see that I got a request for payment from Simon because I see the human readable FIO address, and I see the note that says, hey, this is for the used car you bought for me. And I see it's for 1 Bitcoin. And I was expecting that because I knew it was coming. And now I just say, yes, confirm this request for payment. And I confirm it in my wallet, and that Bitcoin transaction is signed in my wallet. And yet I never saw a public address. You sent me a request for payment to start the transaction in a completely decentralized way, and I had metadata for it. I had data around that, the note from you in this example saying, hey, this was for the used car. So that's how the transaction completely changes, right? From the standpoint of the user, it completely changed the user experience, but from the standpoint of Bitcoin, at the end of everything I just said in that story, it's just a signed Bitcoin transaction out of my wallet. Nothing changed for Bitcoin.
Are there any country restrictions?
No, there will hopefully be no country restrictions whatsoever. You know, it's hard to restrict any blockchain to any specific country if we're talking about usability. So let me just be clear. I'm talking about the use of the protocol. It should be able to be used everywhere.
Okay, this is the final question, actually, Simon. What is the timeline for the launch of FIO?
Yeah, so we're targeting mainnet launch by the end of Q1 of next year. And we're on a good path, we feel like, to get there. We should be launching our first version of our testnet here in the next 30 days. So things are progressing towards that. We've been in an internal alpha testnet. So this testnet will launch in 30 days. Will be the first one where the APIs and SDKs are made available to the public, and anybody would be able to come and start doing practice integrations to a testnet of the FIO protocol.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think that's all we've got for you, David. So thank you very much for joining us. I know it's very late there in Japan, and thanks for taking the time out. And thanks for doing your part to improve the user experience of our industry.
Well, thank you so much. And for everybody who's listening out there, all the information is there at the Bank to the Future pitch site. And there's a white paper and roadmap. And if you have follow-up questions, obviously you can post them right there. And I'm watching those, and we're happy to answer additional questions.
Awesome. Okay, so you're free to jump off now, David, and we're just going to go in through other portfolio news and company updates. So I think, yeah, if you just hang up, that should work. And we'll catch up after the show. Well, tomorrow, not tonight. You'll be going to bed. Okay, so in terms of other news, I'm just going to get my show notes ready. So in terms of pitches live, you can head over to BnkToTheFuture.com and you can head over to the FIO protocol. As we've talked about in previous episodes of Bank to the Future Live, we're currently in a bit of a strange period because for compliance reasons, we've had to switch our merchant processor in order to beef up the processes for our escrow accounts. And I don't want to bore you with the details, but at the moment, there's only crypto payments and card payments and bank transfers on pitches will be live. But in the meantime, we've released our automated way of depositing funds to your BnkToTheFuture.com account. So if you want to make a bank wire and you're a qualifying investor, then once you've got a qualifying account, you can just head over to the fund section of your account and you can deposit some USD. We have had a few people that have been sending euros to their wallet instead of dollars. That's not what's meant to happen. You're meant to send dollars. It is a dollar wallet. Everything's denominated in dollars. You can invest in these pitches in crypto using Bitcoin and Ethereum, but at the moment we don't have a setup for multiple fiat currencies. We do have that planned in the roadmap, so please make sure that you get those converted to dollars if you're sending over a foreign currency. Also we've just put live Vaultoro. So Vaultoro is a Bitcoin to gold exchange. They were actually one of our very early customers, and they were when we were very early in Bank to the Future, and they've relaunched their pitch now. They've made a lot of progress, so you can check out Vaultoro. We've also got Concrete, who's a play in the security token market, DX Exchange, another play in the security token market. We're doing a lot of security token deals at the moment because we believe there's kind of three trends that we're seeing right now. Again, this is not financial advice, but these are the trends we're seeing. The first wave of ultra high return companies that listed through Bank to the Future was cryptocurrency exchanges. We've had several unicorns from Bitfinex to Kraken and to many other different organizations. But the next wave that we're kind of seeing a growth at the moment is the decentralized finance movement and collateralized loans. We're seeing that industry grow in a similar way we saw cryptocurrency exchanges. And more speculative is security token industry. So we like to try and get into things before they become a trend rather than when they are a trend. And these are types of things that we're seeing right now. Also, Edge is live, which FIO talked about in the interview, that is integrated, I believe, or going to be an integration partner with the FIO to make their wallet more usable. And they're really focused on great user experience in terms of not having to remember mnemonic phrases and just having user experiences that people are used to, and really focusing on how we can do that to bring more adoption to the masses. We do have, I don't want to announce them yet, but we're currently working on 6 new pitches that will be live and coming out soon. So keep an eye out for that. If you want to be a priority access member, we are about to launch a deal that will be just for premium members because it's a small allocation. In order to qualify for those, then you need to be a Bank to the Future token holders. You need to have a minimum of 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens, and you need to either connect it to your BnkToTheFuture.com account and hold them on your BF wallet, or you just need to deposit them in the fund section of your account. And you will be a premium member, which means that you get access to deals that only go to premium members, or 48 hours head start on all future deals. We've also got our secondary market, which is where you can buy and sell shares in some of the more established companies via our SPV structure. Some of the ones live right now, the most liquid one is Bitfinex. We've also got blockchain.com, BitPay, Kraken, Ripple Labs, Circle, and we've got a few more coming soon. So we're currently working on the next round of deals. And I think the goal is to at least look to launch one new deal on the secondary market each week while we're still in beta. And we'll start to move out of beta once we put more and more deals live. And also more certainty on the markets. The market is very uncertain at the moment. We're not sure which direction it's going in crypto. We've been involved in crypto for an awful long time, so we're used to these ebbs and flows. But at the moment, the market's trying to decide its way. Seems to be Bitcoin led at the moment, but we'll see where that goes. And I'm just going to quickly, before we see if there's any more questions or we wrap it up here, I'm going to share my screen so that we can share some of the more public portfolio news. And take my camera off, and hopefully you can see my screen. We've been ultra impressed with Securitize. They did a funding round on Bank to the Future. We had to close early, but now they've pulled in another 14 million in the same round, really through financial institutions that are really recognizing that security markets needs to be upgraded and updated. And they saw Securitize as a strategic investment after their approvals and new licenses that they've received via the SEC. We're really happy with them as a portfolio company and the progress they're making to drive the security token space forward. But they also just announced another 14 million in the co-investment from the round that was already live on Bank to the Future. In other portfolio news, we had an interview with the team at K.IM last week, and they announced their token sale on Bitfinex, and they're taking pre-registrations for that over at the brand new Bitfinex token sale platform. So you can head over there. And also Bitfinex, the latest in their battles with the New York Attorney General Office. We've covered this in previous episodes of Bank to the Future Live. We're just trying to make full disclosures. We don't have inside information on this, but as new information becomes publicly available, we're making sure that investors get those disclosures. But for now, the latest is that the Bitfinex no longer need to hand over details to the New York Attorney General's office, and we'll give you further updates on whatever happens with that. And the final bit of news that we can see there is also the Telegram tokens are due to be released this month, and they're getting ready for launch of their mainnet. And if you are one of those that was syndicated into Telegram, then we'll be posting any updates as soon as we have them over on the Investor Zone. And we're expecting an update from the Telegram team on when those tokens will be issued. And as soon as we receive them, we'll certainly be posting. They'll be added just to your BF fund section. And then you can take your time and you can withdraw them in your own time, because obviously the Telegram network, the TON network, is its own blockchain. And so there'll be further details on how to create a wallet, and it will be slightly different from what you might be used to where most tokens exist on Ethereum. So those are all the portfolio news. And we do have 10 minutes left for questions, but I think most of them were probably covered. So if there isn't any questions, for me, they're happy to cover any support related things that you think I've missed out on that we might want to discuss, or any investor relation things or any questions that you might have. Otherwise, we'll just wrap it up 10 minutes early.
Did you want to stop sharing your screen, maybe?
Let's do that. There and there. There I am.
Cool. The only question that we have been getting through is Kim related questions. So if you have any updates there, feel free to share.
Yeah, so at the moment, they've already gone public with their token sale. So you'll be able to pre-register on the Bitfinex token sale site. And anyone that's a shareholder, head over to the Investor Zone. I think that they will be publishing a second announcement just exclusively for shareholders. Yeah, check out, I think that there's something either coming into your email either today or tomorrow from what I've heard.
I do have a question here, actually. How will Kim token sales benefit the existing investors who invested through BF in Kim?
So again, there is a token allocation in the token economics if you check it out on the Bitfinex token sale platform. And there is an allocation just for the shareholders that got the company this far. So they will be receiving it subject to the lock-in periods and release schedule. Yeah, you will be receiving tokens as a shareholder from the shareholder pool.
So not necessarily benefiting particularly BF investors, because that's what the question was.
The only shareholders were the ones that invest. Well, obviously, yes. So the funding round was done through Bank to the Future. So the way that our structure works is we set up an SPV. That SPV is a special company that holds the shares, and the investors own shares in the SPV. So we will receive the shareholder token allocations, and then those will be given and passed on to all of the shareholders in the special company. And you will see them in the BF fund section. And as soon as the lock-in periods are released, you'll be able to use those for use on the K.IM platform or withdraw them to your wallet and do with them as you choose. It is a liquid token built upon Bitcoin, so there might be a bit of a new experience for you to learn, as well as these Telegram blockchains. But maybe by that stage, FIO protocol will be live, and you won't need to learn how to use all these different blockchains, as we're already experiencing. You now got Telegram, you now got Liquid, you now got Ethereum, and we've done a number of different things. So hopefully, maybe you'll be able to open a wallet on Edge. Edge will be integrated with FIO, and then they'll be doing all the hard work with all these different blockchains on Telegram and all these different ones. So it's actually pretty exciting to see that we are in that early stage, as David Gold talked about, in our industry. And a lot of these investments are funding all of the usability challenges to help with adoption and make this experience user for our qualifying investors as well as crypto users. So
another question just came through in the live chat. Why don't you partner with Revolt to make these USD, Euro, GBP deposits possible on the BF platform?
The reason for that is because we are regulated as a securities business. And in order to actually do that in compliance with anti-money laundering laws, you actually need to have a money service business license, which is a very different business to what we're actually in. And so if we actually wanted to engage in the exchange of different fiat currencies and different cryptocurrencies, then you need to have additional licenses that were not in our roadmap. And actually, as a securities business, it might be a bit of a distraction. While we would love to do that to give the improved user experience, it's not quite in our roadmap yet. We are working on other initiatives that are allowing for the exchange. And Revolt would be a great partner, but we believe that it would require additional licenses to achieve that and still meet our obligations with anti-money laundering laws.
And finally, is there any progress with the portfolio section?
No, it's if you check out the Trello board, we've prioritized the new BF identity features that will speed up the KYC process. We've also been working on a completely revamped BF funds. We're also, the next release will include card payments with our new escrow account provider. And then later in the roadmap, we'll be looking at the portfolio section. But unfortunately, it's had to, other features have had to take priority because they're more mission critical. But if you check out, there is a link to a Trello board. We'll try and get that in the description that gives more details on checking out our roadmap. It's really important to us, but we just have only so many things we can achieve in one go.
Okay, I think that's it, Simon.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you very much, Famida. Thank you for David. Thank you for everybody that asked the questions. We'll see you on episode 34 of Bank to the Future Live. We'll be making an announcement. I believe that we've got lined up an interview with the team from Voltoro, who will be discussing their Bitcoin to gold exchange and why that's important. And we'll be bringing all the other updates on portfolio news and everything else that happens in the crypto markets related to Bank to the Future investors. So that's going to do it for episode, are we on 32 or 33? I've lost count. 33? That's going to do it for episode 33 of Bank to the Future Live. If you're watching this recording, please do ask your questions. We'll try and return back to them. Use the comment section, use Twitter, use our Telegram channel. And remember, if you don't want to miss another episode of this, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the bell symbol. YouTube will send you an email each and every time we go live. And that's going to do it. We'll see you this time next week. Bye-bye.